Alright, hello again. Finally got something new to look at. This is the Artti T10, I guess. This caught my eye. I was actually just bought the Melody and I was having some issues with it. So I returned it and I happened to see this and the Artti T10 and it was, what was it? $69 and they had a 20% off discount code going on Amazon. So after taxes, it was like $58. And this is a planer IM. It uses the 14.2 millimeter planer, which, if those sizes are correct, that's the same size that's in the Timeless, the same size that's in the 10 P1 Max. I know a lot of people say they all seem to use the same one and they're just putting different measurements to try to throw us off. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, I don't know. There's very few that I've actually seen inside of, so I can't comment too much on that. What I can comment on, at least as far as having some sort of confidence in where the driver came from, I do believe this is the driver from the P1 Max. So if anybody knows for certain that that's also the driver from the Timeless, please comment below. But yeah, so that would mean it would be the Timeless driver as well. Well, anyway, again, this was a sub $60 planer IM. Get the nice box. Not much on it. On the back, you do have the frequency response graph, and it does actually sound like that. Like, as you can see, past 10K, it does start to roll off, and that does come across. These aren't fatiguing. There's detail, plenty of detail there, but it's just a more almost dynamic driver tuned planer. I'll get into that a little bit later. As you can see, let's see. What are we looking at here? 14.2 millimeter dual dynamic planar diaphragm driver. The impedance is 16.5 ohm, give or take 1%, which is again the same as the P1 Max and probably the Timeless 2. Frequency response 20 to 40K. Sensitivity is 96 dB per milliwatt. Again, similar to the P1 Max. However, that number really doesn't matter too much, that you can't make any judgments off of the sensitivity number, for the simple fact that that can change just by adding foam in front of the driver. The tuning methods can impact that, so that really doesn't help us figure out where this driver came from. You have already on this other side, nothing on here. Of course, you get that high-res logo, lets you know you got something good. So you got the sleeve comes off. Inside, this massive box for no reason. You have a product certificate for what, I don't know. It just tells you what it is you bought. Kind of waste of paper. After sales registration form. This claims to have a 12-month warranty. They even had their little reward gift card. I don't know if it's just for their products or what, but this is one of those deals where they try to get you to write a good review, give people incentives to write 5-star reviews. So yeah, I don't really like that too much. That's a little sketchy. Then you have the instruction manual, which again doesn't really show much. It shows the frequency response and basically how you should have it in your ear. Now here's the IMs. They, right off the bat, they're ugly. They are absolutely ugly. They're kind of 3D printed, almost this cream color. Not sure if you can see that, but it does say what's it, T10 Addy there, if you guys can even make that out. Not sure you can even make that out. You have one little vent there, and you have your little vent there. The tips I'm using currently are the stock tips. I seem to get the best experience, at least for me, with the stock tips, even compared to some of my others that I will mention later. But as you can see, like, you really got to push them down to make sure it's all the way down, so it'll almost be like this. The nozzle's like right at the end of this, and you want that. That makes a big difference in sound. If you have it out a little bit further, I don't know whether it's from the interaction of the reflections hitting the silicone or exactly what it is, but it alters the sound, and in my opinion, in not a good way. I mean, they're rather plain, they're extremely light, cheap plastic feeling. I don't like this. This is supposed to be some aluminum, just like button they put in at the end, which is completely pointless, and in my opinion takes away from the overall look, which is already pretty bad. It uses a 0.78 connector, which is very, very tight. So I don't know, that's another concern, because this plastic feels very cheap, and I'm really, really worried about pulling the cable out and snapping this end off. I don't know, that's something I can see happening at some point with some people, that this end's gonna break. These are very thin. They feel very cheap. I could be wrong. Hopefully it's more durable than it actually is. So, your two IMs underneath the foam. There's a nice little carrying case. Nothing else down there. Inside of the carrying case, again, Artti on one side. You have 3 pairs. I mean, I guess they're kind of spin fit looking tips, but they do have a rather narrow bore. For me, these make the sound congested and crowded and almost too intense. Like, everything gets a little more authority, a little more clumped together, and it is a more powerful experience. I mean, you feel almost a more dynamic experience, but I did not like these because it just killed the sound stage, and I was losing parts of the music that most other tips I didn't lose. I also get 3 pairs of what I have on here. These are kind of just very short flanged tips. That way the nozzle comes almost out to the very end. They're flat at the end and rather wide. For me, these work extremely well. And then you get this cable. It's a rather nice cable. I mean, sub $60 planar IM. Now, I did see another review. I wish I looked before I did this review, because he was the one, not a Kai. I wish I could give him props, because he did a very good review on these, and hopefully I'll find it before posting this video, or at least shortly after, and I'll put a link to his video under mine, because while I don't generally, it's not that I disagree with his opinion, I listen to a different type of music than he does, so things that I like, he generally doesn't, and vice versa. But he's always honest. He gives very good detailed takes on his stuff, and I think he's a trustworthy source for getting information from. But he did a review on these and really piqued my interest after I returned the Melody. So I got these, and again, like, this cable is very nice. I think mine measures like 0.3 ohms or something, which is one of the lowest impedance cables I have, which was kind of shocking. As you can see, I got the balanced version. This comes You can either get it balanced or the standard 3.5 millimeter. I went for the balanced, and I would actually highly recommend anybody interested in these go for balanced, for the simple fact that it's the same price. It's a good quality cable that you can use with all your other stuff. And these things require power. Straight off the bat, you're not gonna get what these are capable of with just your normal dongle. And I don't think I have a single one that can do them justice through the single ended department. Even my oh geez, what is it? The not the Hibby FC4, the my other favorite, the HD Sonata. Oh man, yeah, whatever. It's just, I'm pretty sure it's like the HD Sonata or whatever. I don't happen to have it near me, I don't think. And I do think if I move, everything's going to fall over. So, but anyway, these require a lot of power. The less power you have, the less control they sound. You lose tons of the bass. The bass starts becoming a little sloppy. And if you want to buy these, if this is something you're interested in, that bass is part of the magic these offer. Now the cable's not that important. When he did the review, his little little tie here said "Let Shower." The same people that make the S12. I guess they finally resolved that. Mine says Artti now. So I guess that was just for the first initial batch, and then they're like, oh crap, we better stop letting people know who's really making this. So again, this could be the same driver that's in the S12 if they're all using the same driver. Now, what do I have to compare it to as far as planers at the moment? Let's see, I got the PR2 here, and my Dialogos. I'm still a huge fan of these. Like, the S12s were really good. I enjoyed them. But there's a smoothness that the Dialog has that I prefer. So these are kind of something I kept. The PR2, they were just cheap, and I don't know. They're all at this point now that you can get these for roughly the same price as these. There's almost no reason at all to consider the PR2. Now, granted, my PR2 is not the original that had the black tuning foam here. These are the ones that are more like nothing more than a rebranded, what is it, PR1 Hi-Fi or PR1 Pro. It's one of those two, I can't remember which. But that's all these really are anymore. They're not anything unique like they used to be. These are detail monsters. Plenty of detail, but it's a whole lot more sharp, not more aggressive. Not that great soundstage, but at the time, for the price, especially with EQ, when you do some tip rolling, you can really get to enjoy these. I mean, it's just nice to have a planer, and again, there are some use cases where you can really enjoy these and find some magic in what you're listening to. I get that a whole lot more with the Dialog, and again, with the Dialogos, I like using these tri-tips. It still doesn't give me the mid-bass slap that I want, but it helps a whole lot. Like, I don't know, I don't think, a lot of people complain about the Dialog not having bass, and for me, they have a decent amount of bass. It's mostly sub-bass. They have tons of sub-bass. Like, if you listen to stuff like Pop Smoke or whatever, you're gonna get a nice deep rumble from these. But my favorite quality about these is just the overall smoothness. They can be a little aggressive at times in the treble with some stuff, but it's just the overall smoothness. There's a quality to the sound, even though The tuning could use a lot of work. There's just a quality to the sound that's enjoyable, and again, if you're willing to throw lots of power at these, like these, again, just like most planners, these need power, although these might be the most power hungry I have up here. It's just the changes aren't as dramatic as these when changing with power. For instance, let's say I use the Hibby FC4, which is currently my most powerful dongle, and if I don't change the volume, these will be louder than these. I would have to crank it up a little, just it's like 1 or 2 notches, but these will be louder than these. And it's like that with everyone, all my dongles. But with these, I can get away with listening to these and getting a very, like, getting at least as close to an optimal experience, going all the way down to that HD Sonata thing I was mentioning before, some of the regular just single-ended dongle decks, even this KA2, which is a balanced one. I can still get close to peak performance with that stuff, with these. Same with that. They do require power though, and they do get better. I start actually getting more bass when you start getting towards something like the Hibby FC4. Now these, for instance, there's a, like, that graph. Let's see if I can show this graph again. This graph, I don't know if it's as apparent in this one as it is in the one on the box, but as you can see, there's a good deal of sub bass here. There are some peaks here, which is one of those. There's the 9K peak right here. That one I don't really notice too much. I have no hint of sibilance at all. That peak you do start to notice. There is another, I don't know, it's weird. It looks really low here, but in listening, sometimes it does seem like there's a higher peak in this area as well. But there's lots and lots of bass here. And for instance, you start running single-ended, and these kind of fall apart a lot sooner than these do, and a lot sooner than these do. Things collapse in on themselves, gets congested. The bass bleeds into the mids, and stuff gets muddy. At the bare minimum, not until I start going balanced, and at the bare minimum, this KA2 here is when these start coming alive and showing their potential. They start opening up, they start showing the detail they're capable of, they start showing a little bit of that bass that they have. You're still gonna feel like you're missing some mid bass, but the sub bass is finally gonna start coming through. You're gonna get that rumble, and it's a deep, thunderous, like you feel it type rumble. But even then, there's a lot left on the table with this KA2. So then move to this Shio. Now, as far as tonally, I would argue the Shio does these the most justice. Kind of same with these, because it adds a hint of warmth. It does add a hint of warmth to these, which isn't needed, but it does help with that little peak that's going on right here. And what's that, like the 4 or 5K region? It does seem to help a little bit with that and smooth that over and make it more of just a nice upfront smooth detail with body and crispness, as opposed to something being slammed down your face. So these do tonally fit, what is it, the T10 better, but you're still not quite getting much slam in the mid bass. At this point, you're getting now tons and tons of sub bass, like 100 hertz and below, especially 50 hertz and below, like there's a lot there. It's controlled, it's textured. It's I'm kind of shocked at how much is there, really. It's almost on the levels of the legato. Like, it's actually, come to think of it, it does remind me a lot. It's like a planar version of the legato in a way. Lots of sub bass, lots of bass, period, and then a few peaks up in the lower treble, upper mid region that can kind of hop out at you every now and then. Now, what I noticed, I seen at least close to the full potential. What these really can do is when I broke out the Hibby FC4. This is the most powerful dongle deck I got. Now I'm running balanced, the stock cable, and now I'm getting the slam in the mid bass. Like, it reminds me a lot of a very good dynamic. There's lots of power in that bass. Like, the sub bass is absurd. Like, if you happen to like hip hop and you have a Hibby FC4 or Shio, something in this power range, run balanced, these might be the planar you have been looking for. Like, there's lots of bass here, and I bought the Melody thinking that was their intention, because what was it? I think there was 1 or 2 reviews I seen, and they were talking about how it sounded dynamic, and there was all this bass and stuff. And the pair I only got to listen to it for, it was like, I think 2 days, and yeah, they sounded good, but it was a lot of the same. There was good bass, but it didn't seem to have the impact and texture that this had. Plenty of detail. It's hard to argue whether or not it's the vocals. That might have been where that slightly edged out these, and it's not in the detail. It's more like, the deeper the voice is, like if a guy got a really deep voice, it almost seems like when it starts getting close to the upper bass level, like where it starts recessing a little bit more, so it kind of takes a step or two back compared to a normal voice like mine, or someone trying to sing as opposed to someone with a deep voice rapping or whatever. But that said, doesn't happen that often, and I still, even with that flaw, think as far as planars go, if you listen to hip hop, even rock actually, like heavy metal and stuff like Korn and Limp Bizkit and Ozzy Osbourne and stuff like that, I still think these are the best overall choice. Because there's just some areas that I didn't notice in the Melody. Like, the Melody didn't seem to have those little peaks, but again, I only got 2 days with it. It just wasn't overall super impressive to me, whereas these ended up being impressive to me. On the first listen, though, because they first came and I tried these black tips, and it was just like, oh, wait a minute. To me, it didn't sound good at all. Like, it seemed like it was missing lots of detail and lots of stuff. But once I switched to these, I did try these tri-tips on them, and they're also very good. It's just, they do seem to widen things ever so slightly, but it also softened things a little more, and I already think some of the stuff is soft enough. So using these, especially with the nozzle like right at the end there, works wonders for me. Like, I absolutely love the way they sound like this, and I'm kind of happy that the melody broke. Like, oh, I didn't even say how it broke. Sitting there listening, and you could just start hearing, I don't even know, it's almost like you can almost hear that every now and then boom, the left side was gone, done. So I don't know if the driver was smacking against the magnets or what exactly was going on, but it just died. And I just took the refund, figured, you know, I'll wait, see what some other people will say, see if any other people notice the same issue, and I'll move on to get something like this. Being the holiday season and everything going on, I kind of gotta be very selective with my purchases at the moment. So, super happy that I took a risk on these. These are not something you're gonna wear in public. Again, they're, I don't know, I find them super ugly. They're super cheap. They do have a left and right. Hopefully you guys can see that there. I mean, trying to see that in real life is damn near impossible. Like, it's crazy. Well, I don't even know why they'd bother. They should have just painted something red and let the other one be blue, or just one side red and leave the other alone. But good luck trying to see that in real life, especially outside. It's not gonna happen. What I would have liked to have seen is then not do the case, cut the packaging in half, and use that extra $3 or whatever they saved, plus the cost they put into this shell, and put that in a metal shell, or even a resin shell, kind of like the P1 Max, to do something, because I don't know, they're ugly, they're not this kind, like, I've fallen asleep listening to them, so they're definitely comfortable enough to sleep in, but you do kind of notice they're in your ears. Not something you just forget about. It doesn't cause any irritation or anything, but it's just the least effort shell possible. And what's funny is, if you looked at pictures of the inside of a P1 Max, this is the exact cutout that the driver sits in. Like, inside the P1 Max, you'll see the milled out part or whatever. That's exactly the shape. Even has this side here where they slide in the connector. So it's basically, they took the inner part of the P1 Max, thickened it up, and just said, boom, there you go. That's now the shell. We're not going to add anything extra. We'll keep it as small and simple as possible, which great for price. Like, again, you're paying $60 for a 14.2 millimeter planer, similar to what's in the Diogo, the S12 Timeless P1 Max, like, and that's the quality you're getting with these. And if anything, I would argue these solved a lot of the issues that plagued all those other way more expensive ones. Like, you're not going to get a headache from these. There's nothing. I know this has this scary 9K peak, and that really had me concerned. But that guy in the video swore that he didn't hear it, that it was a coupler artifact. I still don't believe that it's a coupler artifact, but I do think it just has more to do with how it fits in my ear. Like, I do believe that spike is there. Like, most of the time, if I see that spike, I hear it. It just so happens that, like, I kind of hear it when I use the black ones. Like, that's when it gets really aggressive. Like, it can get fatiguing, congested, and all types of stuff when you use these ones. They kind of have a little narrower bore. But using something with a nice big bore, or where the tip really doesn't play any factor at all in the sound, makes a world of difference. So as far as music, again, I would gear these towards somebody who likes pop music, hip hop music, rock music, if you want to really have a more of a presence in the bass region. Now, what else? That would be, at least we're talking stock here, stock tips, like that would be kind of the market I would gear these towards. Like, they're more warmly tinted. They're way more warm than the PR2s, T1 or PR1s and all that, whatever. They're warmer than the Dioko. They actually do have somewhat of a dynamic sound, but there's just too much like the amount of detail and speediness to it lets you know that it isn't a dynamic, so you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. In treble, there's still like those peaks, mids, most of the time fine, perfect, and not perfect, but good. But there are, again, like I mentioned, there are those rare cases where it can sound a little too recessed. And it's weird because it won't be recessed necessarily towards stuff in the treble, it'll be recessed towards the sub bass. Like, there's times where the sub bass just really goes to town and it's just thunderous and it kind of pushes everything back. It doesn't that's another thing that had me the most impressed. There's some song like that Kill Jill song that what's his name, that guy Good Audio uses. Like, this might do that better than I've ever heard anything else do that. It does, like, it's a physical rumble. It's completely different tones for each of those three little areas. You clearly hear the change in frequency. You clearly feel the change in frequency. And all while that just thunderous sub bass is going on, everything else is crystal clear and unaffected. And it's like that with just regular music too. Everything I listen to, regardless of how absolutely insane the sub bass gets and how much of it it's trying to just slam in my ears and rattle my teeth out, everything else stays completely controlled and separated. And that's an incredible feat in my opinion, because even these, like, you can get some EQ on the PR2s, and again, you put it through something like the Hibby FC4, your desktop amp, and these things, you can get some wonderful bass out of these. You can get some really quality audio out of these. But when stuff like that type of sub bass starts going on, especially at that level, it's like it almost lowers the volume of the mids. Like even that Kill Jill part that I'm talking about, it's like it lowers the volume of everything else just so it can do that. You start losing some of the others. Doesn't happen with this at all. This, even with EQ, can't really get it to super visceral rumbles, but it also never loses control. It's always nice and smooth. Like, I don't know, I don't understand. Like, I'm kind of a bass head in a sense. Like, I want lots of bass, but apparently I'm not as severe as a bass head as many others. And these are not bassy IMs, but I absolutely love the Dioko. Like, I preferred these over the S12, and I definitely prefer them over these PR2s. I preferred them over, what was it? I had another one, I can't remember. Can't remember if it was the Heyday or not. Oh, I'm blanking. But at the end of the day, I kept coming back to these because they just seemed flat and smooth and always under control. They had nice wide sound stage, and everything about them just had a quality sound to them. No graininess, no edginess. Yeah, it had some aggressive, like some treble boosted parts that at times with the wrong tips can be fatiguing, but I don't get that at all using these tri-tips. These kind of carry on a little bit with the smoothness of those, but you get bass. Now it's almost like I said before, it's almost like a dynamic. Like you're getting mid bass that has impact, sub bass that just rumbles, and there's a lot of it. The more power you feed it, the more sub bass this has. So some might actually prefer stopping at something like the Shio here, because there's at times where it can almost, it starts getting that, like, in my opinion, kind of like that legato meme excessive type levels with the Hibby FC4, where there's just, it's crazy how much sub bass. I just don't know if I would recommend something like the KA2 if you want to get everything out of the T10. Like, it's super clean, clear, but you're not gonna get much, if any, of the mid bass punch. Like, you'll hear the mid bass, you'll get some sub bass, but it's that mid bass that's gonna feel lacking with this, and it's all that will make some of the peaks up in the treble region, up in that like 5K region, whatever, become slightly more apparent. So it gets to be a less overall smooth experience, and it does start sounding more current gen planar than a crazily impressive dynamic. When you move to this one, the Shio, this already has a warm tint, and if you've seen my video, this isn't something I was particularly a fan of. I kind of thought it colored stuff too much, and I like stuff that uses the, what is it, 9219 chip. And but this, if you have this, I would highly recommend getting a pair of the T10s, the Artti T10s. First time I've ever heard of this brand, and again, it's only that cheap price in that one video that made me make this purchase, and I am so glad I did. But this is where, and again, high gain. I mean, with the low gain and some of that mid bass, it loses its impact. You gotta run this high gain, and you'll start getting that impact. And like, this is when it starts becoming a hip hop, pop, like just popular music type planar IM. That's just a good all-arounder. This is when it starts becoming just like dynamic driver level bass. It has nice punch in the bass. Like, it's tactile even in the mid bass, sub bass crazy. And it's this alright. This is the warm one, this is the more clean and clear one. I noticed more of a sound stage with this, a bigger overall sound. It's more impressively planar like. I don't want to say more detailed, but it does have more of the planar characteristics, and it may be more enjoyable for most people, especially if you're trying to buy a planar IM, to have something as powerful as the FC4 for these, to get the best of what you can out of these. Like, I really have no grudge. I've not gotten a single headache with these. These things have given me headaches constantly. The S12 is giving me headaches a lot. These used to give me headaches until I got the tips sorted. These things, never a headache. Even something like this, never a headache. Like, they smooth, warm, planer that's tuned to sound like a dynamic, but it keeps the separation, keeps the detail, and the detail level, in my opinion, exceeds the PR2, and it's roughly equal to the Dioko, the S12, the Heyday, the P1 Max. The only times, like, I could definitely see someone saying, oh no, they're not true, those are more detailed, just for the simple fact that the sub bass and bass are so much more on these, where somehow you almost got to pay a little bit more attention to notice that little bit of detail you think you don't hear, even though it's there. And when once you notice it, you can pick it up clear as day. It's completely separated. Like, there's tons of technical ability there. What else? I honestly don't know what else to talk about. That's, like, in my opinion, if you're looking for sub $100 IEM, you're looking for your first planar IEM, you don't want to break the bank, but you already have, let's say you already have a Hibby FC4, you already have a Shio, or at least something in these power ranges. I mean, risk it. Take the chance. I don't know. They're not something you're going to take out in public. They're ugly. But the cable, I really like the cable. Even though, to be fair, it's actually a cheap cable. It's using good wire, but there's nothing special about these ends. Like, it's nothing special at all. What can I say? Again, okay, so I'm just going to do a quick overview of the frequency response and how I hear it. Give a quick final thought and let you guys let go. It's already been 40 minutes. Oh my god, and I probably have said the same thing 5 times by now. Okay, so again, we'll start with sub bass. Tremendous amount of sub bass. A very good amount of mid bass. The more power you give it, the more impact it has, the more tactile it becomes, the more dynamic like it becomes. Mids and vocal range can get recessed with people with deep husky voices. Again, it also depends on how you're powering it. If you're giving it enough power to feed the bass, you might notice that recession a little bit more. But if you're using something like this, you're not going to notice that recession all that much, because the bass never quite gets to the level that it can get to. Upper mids, lower treble, there's definitely a little bit of a peak there going on. I think that might be where the graph shows it too. Where is it? Again, where is it? Well, that's showing, yeah, I guess the 4 or 5K range. And you do kind of notice it. It's showing, at least compared to the rest of it, like roughly a 3 dB beat bump. And I guess that's what I'm hearing for the most part. Like, there is some stuff where you might hear a chime or something just come up and then be like really forward and crystal clean and almost sharpish, while everything else is nice and smooth and big and separated. It might just kind of pierce through the rest of the track, but again, I'm exaggerating the piercing part. It's just because it makes itself so apparent. It's not, again, not fatiguing. It doesn't get anywhere near any sorts of sibilance. And then once you get into the treble is actually relatively, I don't know, I guess almost balanced out with the mids, maybe a little higher. I guess a little higher. So, like, it does play a factor, but I don't think it necessarily plays a factor in a bad way, because I notice there's stuff here and even here, like up in that upper treble region, where it makes some of those sounds too forward, and it just kind of jars you a bit and brings your attention away from the main focus of the music. Whereas here, it's kind of more part of the music, it more fits in, it's a more cohesive, coherent portrayal of the song, at least in my opinion. So it doesn't jar you, it doesn't pull you away from the main focus. And it does that while still being completely separated and allowing you to appreciate the quality of whatever it is playing in that region and not interfering with anything else. I'm almost speechless, like I'm blown away that these $60 these cheap looking $60 IEMs are possibly one of the best planar IEMs I have heard for my taste in music. Like, these had the best smoothness, and I know there was better because others had more bass and EQ and all that, but there was just this wonderful smoothness that these had that gave them a quality that I preferred over even the more expensive one. These have some of that smoothness, but just have gobs of fun, tons of bass. Like these, like, if you're, I hope some of my audience does listen to hip hop and stuff, and I really do, because these, if you're a hip hop fan, these are the planar for you. Gotta feed them power, but these are it. I have yet to hear anything that can do what these do with just a single driver. I really wish I could afford to rip these apart. I want to see what the driver inside looks like. There's no way to even tell. Like, there's that one little opening there, but you can't really see anything in there. It looks, the little bit I can see, it just looks like if you Googled 14.2 millimeter planar magnetic driver, it kind of looks like what it would show, and like all the YouTube videos where it showed people pulling apart, what was it, I can't remember what it was now, it might have been the P1, but it does look like that, so it's probably the same driver as all the other ones, just tuned differently. And when you shine light through these, there's no way you're going to be able to see it now, but there's actually, it seems like they actually got a little piece of foam. Whoops. A little piece of foam, like right up there. So maybe that's what they're using for dampening, as opposed to just like a thin filter up here. And maybe that's what gives it its nice, warm, smooth characteristic. I don't know. For me, these are a must-buy for the simple fact that you're getting one of the quality planar drivers at just an absurdly cheap price with an incredible cable. And at this point, nobody should be buying any of these. The cable for these are junk. They're pain. I mean, I guess if you're a treble head or whatever, okay, fine. These will not be for you. These are not for treble heads. But I don't know. I would not. I do like the looks of these better. They do seem to be built better. They certainly feel more substantial in the hand, but the sound of these makes up for it. I have no problem having these just be something I wear at home. No problem at all. Fine. Enjoy it. There's tons of quality here. And I guess that is about it. I don't know. It's funny, this is another thing, like, I can't even remember what are these, the Kahlua. I love these things. They're great. Good bass, tons of detail, at a nice affordable price. One of my favorite built IMs out there as far as build point. Like, I just love that shell and everything. And these, I thought, were like the hi-fi version of a legato in a sense. Good bass and all that. These outclass these. And it's sad for me to say. You're paying less price, you're getting a planer, you're getting more bass, better textured bass, better separation, just more overall detail. These are definitely something worth considering. Just remember, do not judge them when you're just plugging in some old cheap little single-ended dongle. These things do not sound, and if you're using those tips with the black nozzle or any sort of narrow bore tips with these, you get a congested, just unimpressive sound. And they also do start sounding better. Mine took, I don't know, I fell asleep with these in the first day I got them, just listen, didn't like, wasn't super impressed at first. Switched tips, started liking them. Oh, they're good. And I swear, when I woke up the next day, they were still playing. And now they just seem more detailed. Like, not necessarily more detailed, but now everything's super separated. Like, they sound like what I expected. Like, I expected the type of separation I got out of these Diokos, and now I'm getting that. Now I have no qualms whatsoever. Like, these are, I don't have many planar IMs left. Like, somehow I have bad luck with them. They keep breaking. I'm not even dropping them. Like, that melody. I was really looking forward to those 2 days. Just got them and broken. They was at S12 broken. They had quite a few broken. I can't even think of half of them at this point. I somehow keep managing to break them. Hopefully I don't break these. I don't know. These, I've dropped these a ton. Never broken. Never had any issue. I've dropped them on concrete. Never had any issues. Glass didn't even break. Like, I don't know. Man, I just had bad luck with some of them. Again, the Artti T10. You want a planer with some bass, some mid bass, some warmth, but oh, alright, sorry. Sound stage. These have a nice wide sound stage. Not much in front, not much in back, but it's a nice wide airy sound stage. These don't. These are kind of narrow, kind of a small circle, if you will, not much going behind you. These in sound stage are closer to these. Like, that's kind of the one area where the cheapness kind of creeps in. Now, switching tips to this helped it a lot. Like, so the sound stage has opened up wider than the PR2, but it's still not as wide as the Dioko. Overall, it's just not as airy, but it's every bit as smooth, as clean. And what else can I... Oh, as far as tips, these things are, like, highly impacted by the tips you put on them. There's a lot you can change by changing these tips. These things seem super sensitive to not only your source, but your tips. So keep that in mind. Definitely tip roll these. If you, for some reason, this pair doesn't have luck, don't seem to work well for you, try something like these tries. The tri-tips. Like, I've already seen others mention they really like the tri-tips on this. Now, for me, the tri-tips kind of smoothed it a little too much, which is why I preferred these stock short ones where it's basically the nozzle directly in my ear. Like, that gave me the smoothness, but still crispness and detailed and just thunderous sub bass and good slam in the mid bass. But these are very dependent on tip and source. Alright, now, again, like, these are my favorite planar IMs at the moment. I'm having a blast listening to them. And I've spent, geez, I haven't even had them that long, to be fair, but I have done so much listening, literally 4 straight days non-stop, almost 8 hours a day with these things in my ear, just listening, and I'm like absolutely in love with them. And then I start going back and forth to stuff like these and the Kalu and some of my other stuff, and it's just, I feel like I'm missing out, and then I end up coming back to these. It's like I get everything I want from some of my bassy dynamics, but then I get the detail and speed from the planers from here. It's like the best of both worlds. Just get these in the metal shell and keep the price down, and you guys got, they have a winner. Alright, that's it. I'm done calling it quits. We're an hour in. I don't even know if I touched on half of what I wanted to touch on. So, anyway, that was my long-winded look at the Artti T10. I think they are $70 regular price. Like I said, mine had a 20% discount. Came to $58 after tax. You get something like that. Well, if you see that again, do not hesitate. Immediately buy. Just buy, put it in your cart, listen, make sure you have something with power, and I highly doubt you'd be disappointed unless you're not a fan of bass and sub bass. If those two things are not something you were looking for, either limit yourself to something like the K2 tops so you're not getting tons of bass, or find something else. But even if I wasn't a fan of sub bass and bass, I still would find no reason to recommend the PR2 over the T10. They're kind of in a class, just like, to be fair, even this $99 Dioko, I do feel it's in a different class than the PR2. Like, this is tons of detail and all that, but there's just an edginess to everything. This is in the same class as stuff like that. Stuff like the S12, stuff Heyday, P1 Max. Like, this is, from what I've seen and even from the graphs, the sound you should expect from this, for anybody who has heard a P1 Max or own one, expect the same kind of like mids and upper mids to treble. Expect that from the P1 Max, but with more bass. So it's basically a P1 Max with more bass. That's kind of what you can expect from these. Now, I don't know. That sounds absolutely amazing to me. Maybe that's why I love these so much. I hope you guys give these a shot. Again, they're super cheap. Amazon's return policy is mostly good, so take advantage of that. Give these a shot. I hope you guys enjoy them. I wish they were nicer looking, but if you're just after some fun audio and want a good quality planer with bass, here you go. Somehow the best one I've heard is the cheapest one I've heard. Crazy. You guys have a nice day. I appreciate all of you guys watching. Please leave a thumbs up, subscribe. Again, thank you. I appreciate you guys being patient with me with these videos. It's that time of the year where you gotta be selective with where the money goes. Anyway, thank you guys.